Hey everyone, I'm Jo Muirhead and this is the Entrepreneurial Clinician podcast. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurial Clinician podcast. I am your host, Jo Muirhead, and I am here with my second cup of coffee of the day. I have spent the last hour preparing to record this podcast. So I'm a bundle of nerves. I've got bar speech happening, but the coffee's hot. My room is well lit. My beautiful plant is behind me. All is good in the world. This podcast episode today is titled, Your Abundance of Scarcity is Showing, because we need to talk about this thing. How many of us want to exist, want to live from a place of abundance, but we actually struggle with scarcity? Have you ever worked out how hard it is to stay in a mindset, in an attitude, in a lifestyle of abundance? Well, I've had an epiphany around this over the last couple of weeks, and I want to share it with you because if we are genuinely interested in wanting to make a change in the way we are perceived as leaders in the community, the way we are remunerated, the way we are thought of, the way we think about ourselves, then it starts here. It starts with us learning how scarcity is turning up for us every single day. And in next episode, I'm going to share with you how we're going to break those shackles off so that we can actually lead from the front, from a place of knowing that there's more than enough. So when you think about scarcity, you actually shrink. When you go into a scarce frame of mind, or you think there's not enough money, you start to shrink. You fall back, you grab control, you panic, and you ruminate. Am I right? You're sitting there going, yes, Jo, that's me. Yes, Jo, that's me. Scarcity makes us small. So if you get a bill that you weren't expecting, say, a tax bill that you weren't expecting, and you go to your bank account and you go, I don't have the money to pay that bill, you automatically shrink. You automatically start thinking about all the things you can no longer do or have or desire. If you go through a period in your year where your referrals fall away, say summer in Australia or in the USA or in Europe or anywhere where it's summer, you automatically start to think, I can't afford to do the things I want to do. You shrink back. You go small. But abundance, on the other hand, makes us think of spaciousness. It makes us think of grace and graciousness. We get to be graciously spacious when we come from a mindset, an attitude, and a lifestyle of abundance. It is quite literally overflowing, as in there is not enough space to hold all the stuff. Not enough space. Too much. Overflowing. It means there's no more room left. And it turns up with a posture of grace and ease. It's beautiful. A lot of people describe it as being in flow. But it's very, very difficult for us to be in a space, in a place, in a posture of abundance when you are used to reacting to scarcity. We often don't like feeling the scarce. We want to make it go away. It's limiting. It stifles our creativity. And it really does cause us to become stressed and disempowered. But hang on. I want to put some insight here and explain to you how we got here, because it's not your fault. It really isn't your fault. You didn't cause this for yourself. I'm going to share with you how you can break out of it, but you didn't do this to yourself. So we know that clinicians, health professionals, we are excellent risk managers. We are realistic while being optimistic for our clients. But we also know the worst about humanity. So think about what turns up in your clinic every day or your health business every day. I'm going to give you an example of a young man that I was working with in my private practice, Purple Co. So he's a young man in his early 20s. He's now living in a wheelchair post being a pedestrian that was knocked down on a pedestrian crossing. So nothing was his fault. He was doing the right thing. And he's now got a high level quadriplegic spinal cord injury. So since that accident, life got really hard. He was at university, he was studying away, he wanted to go and create amazing medical devices for humans to have better quality of life. So he had purpose, he had joy, he had a real reason to get out of bed every day. Now, when he works with us, or when he came to see me and we talked about what other things he wanted to do with his life, the things that would turn up in the room for him were climate change. He was terrified about climate change because as somebody who now uses a power wheelchair to get around the world, he felt like he couldn't keep himself safe. Politics and racism here in Australia, that really upset him. He did not know where he, as a person of color, now as a person with a significant disability, was able to fit into the landscape of the community of Australia. It was something that was never, ever thought about before. He was now thinking about, before he left the house, how am I getting somewhere? And can I get out of the car when I get there? Can I get into the building when I get there? It was easier for him at some stages to not go out because he didn't want to have to think about all of that stuff. Then we have the whole concept of ableism and all the wonderful people who turned up telling him how inspired they were by him and could he speak to their community group or their school or what have you. And he was just like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. Do I have to say yes to this? The frustration about access and equity to services. Access is still a huge issue for anybody using a power chair. It's one of the benefits of us working from home, especially as a rehabilitation counsellor, because I don't have to help employers overcome the hurdle of somebody being in a wheelchair. So this client's experience screams fear and scarcity. And you're all listening to that and you're going, of course, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Of course, that's going to turn up in your rooms, Joe. Yeah, I get that. I know that this is going to turn up in my room. But if I'm seeing 4, 5, maybe 8 clients a day, then this scarcity message is constantly being reinforced for me. It's no longer conscious. It's habitual. It's my frame of reference. It's my culture. It's our socialization. And as a collective, it's our collective experience as health professionals. So is it any wonder that we struggle to cultivate a mindset of abundance? No. So stop blaming yourself. Stop trying to make it work. Stop trying to work harder at it. Let me help you shift some more of your unhelpful thinking so that we can create the way for the new way of thinking. So do not be mistaken, however, that this is not permission for you to do nothing and fatalistically just accept the status quo, right? I mean, you could, so press stop and don't engage anymore. But if you're going to keep listening, which I'm assuming you are, then you want to know that there's a way out of this. You know that you would fight very hard to help your client navigate their own thoughts and actions. Sometimes we fight harder than our clients, right? Well, it's time that you started to put that same fierceness towards yourself. But before you tune out thinking, I've heard all this before, it's going to be more foo-foo wah-wah, which means you don't know me, I want to shed some new light on how this scarcity stuff is actually turning up for health professionals. Because you might be sitting there going, I've got this nailed, Joe, I've got this sorted, because I used to be you. I used to think like that until somebody in my world, very important to me, helped me see, heck, Joe, look at how scarcity turned up for you again today. So I've got 10 ways, so this could be long. I've got 10 ways that I am seeing scarcity turn up either for myself or for the health professionals that I engage with, or for those of you I am stalking, watching on social media. But before we get onto that, I just want to ask another question. Does it feel like every private practice coach or consultant is talking about abundance? Are you like, oh my God, there's another private practice coach talking about abundance on their podcast. This must be the thing that they do. It's a bait and switch. No, that's not what we're doing. It's because we know how big of a deal this is. We all have to talk about it because most of us don't listen the first time we hear it. And if we all don't talk about it, then nothing's going to change. It is that big of a deal. If you genuinely want to change how you're turning up, how you're experiencing life, the growth of your private practice, the growth of your health business, the growth of your family, the growth of yourself, if you genuinely want to become the human being that you've always desired to become, then this is something that you need to pay attention to. This mindset around abundance is absolutely necessary for you to have the business and career of your life that serves all that you want it to be. So number 2, here I go with my list of 10 things. So this will confuse the heck out of you linear thinkers out there, because I've gone 1 and 2, and now I'm about to start at 1 again. So here are the 10 things, 10 ways that I see scarcity showing up. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. I did not want to create a 4-hour podcast episode for you today, but I do know that some of this is going to sting. What I do need you to know is that none of you who are thinking that this is a personal attack have been personally attacked. This is a collective of stories that I've told myself, that I've experienced, that I've witnessed. No one person can be identified from anything that is going to be said over the next little while. So the first place that I can see scarcity turning up every single day at the moment is recruitment. We hear things like, there is no decent talent. No one wants to work hard. This current generation are all entitled. Therefore, I will see all the clients and whine about the fact that I can't find the talent, when the truth is you won't actually invest in learning how to lead or build a culture or build an alternative way to serve the clients that are knocking on your door, so that you actually don't need to lead a team of clinicians. If you can't find the right talent and you keep telling yourself that there's a shortage of talent and that's why your business can't grow, dear health professional, the problem is you. The second way I see scarcity turning up for health professionals, fierce independence. Fierce independence. Goes something like this. Hey, Joe, my amazing coach, you've been awesome and you helped me get out of that really big hole. Before I met you, I wasn't sleeping at night. My income was terrible. I was getting myself further into debt and I felt like a failure. You got me out of that hole. Thank you so much. I love having you in my world, but I don't want to become dependent on you. So I now need to stop coaching with you and I'm going to go and do this by myself. Coaches are great at helping you in a crisis, but a coach comes into their own and becomes an exceptionally valuable resource when they take you from great to places you didn't even know was possible. The third way scarcity is showing up for us wonderful health professionals is in our incredibly unrealistic expectations of each other, resources, services, and the world around us. For example, I want a virtual assistant who can read my mind, manage my schedule, create all of my content, organize speaking gigs for me, handle all my personal administration, and I only want to pay $7 an hour. And I want them on an ad hoc hourly basis because I don't know if I can trust them. Number one, you don't want a virtual assistant. You actually need an executive assistant or a business manager. Very different skill set. Let's be clear about that. Oh, cool. That's cool, Joe. If I need a business manager or an executive assistant, how do I go get one? Well, the first thing I need to let you know, dear client asking the question, is that they will want to be on a monthly retainer. And you're looking at a minimum of $1,500 a month package for about, 20 hours a week. Prospective client or client goes, I can't afford that, but I can find a VA for $7 an hour. This is where Joe goes, where is this magical unicorn person? Because I need to tell them that they're worth a heck of a lot more than $7 an hour. 12 years ago, when I started using offshore virtual assistants, I was paying around $7 US an hour, and it was terrible. It was a horrible experience because I had not learned how to work with said people. So we have incredibly unrealistic expectations of offshore support, of billing companies, but of virtual assistants, of business managers, of coaches, of marketing companies, of SEO companies, of anything that we don't have the skill set in, we have incredibly unrealistic expectations of. Booyah, I just said that out loud. Your scarcity is turning up in your incredibly unrealistic expectations of the other professionals you need to have in your world. Number 4, the next place I gave that away, scarcity is turning up is in resentment. Your scarcity is being amplified when you become resentful. For example, you may pay for one session with a coach, just one session. I just want one session with your coach. You might pay $500, $1,000, and somehow you expect that one session, that's 45 minutes to 60 minutes, that little bit of money and time investment, they're going to give you everything you need to do something you've never done before. Because apparently that's what we can do. That might have something to do with the unrealistic expectations I just spoke about, but anywho. But then what tends to happen is your project fails, or your event doesn't get the traction that you want, or your product doesn't launch, or you can't find the people to buy. You spent all this time creating an amazing product, but nobody told you that you need to market said product. Then you get angry and bitter and resentful, and you start telling everybody how much you have been let down and hurt and misled, and you can't trust said person. And really what you needed to do was invest in a coach or a consultant who can implement with you to get you to your goal. Seriously. Number 5. You actually have a belief in lack. You don't like it. You pretend it's not there. But I have a belief in lack. It is deep-rooted. Thank you, family of origin, and my grandparents and my great-grandparents. That's how far back I have traced my belief in lack. This is where you have an automatic reaction that says, there's not enough. I'm not enough. For example, you won't share the good stuff that others are doing because you're scared that they will get the clients and you won't. You won't release your amazing course or content into the world because you're scared someone's going to steal your IP. Oh, please. Now, I'm not saying don't be wise. I'm not saying don't protect yourself. I'm not saying don't protect your intellectual property. But if you are sitting on something that you know could help hundreds and thousands of people because you haven't got the money to be able to go and protect your IP, then seriously, I have to question your motives here. We have far more belief in lack than we do in abundance. I can assure you of this. And by now I'm expecting some of you are going, oh, this hurts. I'm possibly even triggering some of you. I don't mean to be painful. I don't mean to point the finger at you. In fact, I don't even know who you are right now. But what I do know is if we as a collective, as you as an individual who creates us as a collective, do not get this right, we are not going to see the changes and advancements in healthcare and community care that we say that we want. So number 6, one of my personal favorites of how scarcity likes to turn up for me, comparisonitis, comparing ourselves to others. Every time you compare your circumstances to another person, you are reinforcing your feelings of inadequacy. Dear Joe, every single time I compare my circumstances to another person, I am reinforcing my own feelings of inadequacy. This is a surefire way to go from abundance to scarcity, flatlining. So I'm going to have a very vulnerable moment with you here and give you something very personal about me after I had that mouthful of now cold coffee. So I launched a podcast this year. Hurrah, you're listening to it. But it's not the only podcast on the market. Have you noticed that? I see someone like Patrick Casale put out a podcast episode. I see all the comments that he gets. I see all the interaction that he gets. And I go, I must suck. I am an avid fan of Cindy Doyle's Code for Couples podcast. got nothing to do with practice building and everything to do with law enforcement relationships, which I happen to know very little about, but I love her podcast. I have learned so much about relationship just from listening to her podcast. I see all the interactions she gets. I see all of the shares that she gets, the people she gets. I know Cindy is being invited to speak at some amazing events and is being able to influence her people in an incredible way. And I go, well, I'm not there. I must suck. And then after I launched my podcast, my dear friend Ernesto launched his own. And he got way more downloads than I did with his first podcast release. And I saw all the interaction and all the support, and I looked at his numbers because he was sharing his numbers because that's what we do. And I went, I must suck. So then I got into the headspace of, wah, they're better than me. I suck. Nobody wants another podcast. Nobody wants a podcast from me. Who wants to sit around and listen to me? Well, you're here. I have something to say. I'm not any of those people. And if I can help another person stay working as a health professional so that they can serve the people that they need to serve, so they can get the healthcare that they need, and that health professional can live a life of abundance, be vibrant, be full of life and vigor, then I am happy to keep releasing podcast episodes. Number 7, the 7th way I have noticed that health professionals love to keep themselves in a place of scarcity is the need to be right. How to kill your abundance mindset fast. You justify yourself, you justify your actions, you find all the emails in the email chain and you go, there you go, I already sent it to you, there you go, we've already had this discussion. You are constantly using your precious energy to prove you are right and correct. Now, leaders of private practice, owners of health businesses, I'm going to call you out a bit here right now because you do this a lot. And this is an outstanding way for you to kill the culture in your business, lose your staff, and then reinforce for yourself that you can't get quality staff, that nobody wants to work hard, reinforcing that the only way to get anything done is for you to do it yourself, reinforcing your own scarcity mindset. Stop trying to prove that you're right and start looking for ways you can serve. Number 8. Scarcity turns up as fear of rejection. So you don't ask for help, you don't market yourself, you won't attend an event, or for God forbid, you won't put in an application to speak at a conference because you just want to be asked. Because when you're asked, you are not going to be rejected. You might then spend a heap of money on a lawyer to write an employment contract with an airtight non-compete clause, because we don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be wrong. We want to be right. But let's face it, most non-compete clauses are unable to be enforced because of all the laws that it impacts. Scarcity turns up as a fear of rejection. Number 9, scarcity turns up as a need more mentality. I need more, I need more, I need more. When I have $10,000 months, then I'll get a coach. Honey, you need a coach to get yourself to $10,000 months. When I have more energy, then I'll start creating products. Honey, chances are you're exhausted because you're seeing so many people. Let me help you create the products to replace the income so that you can actually start breathing again. When I have a better team, then I'll stop doing everything. Honey, you actually need to start empowering your team, which means you're going to have to let some people make mistakes. You're going to need to learn to delegate, and you actually need to learn how to become a leader. When my ADHD meds work, then I'll get a personal assistant. If you have a neurodivergent brain, people are your best asset. People are my best asset. I don't have one. I have a neurotypical brain. I don't have ADHD, but I have 3 admin support people. You, my dear friend, are not expensive. This is what it takes to be a health professional who gives people back their lives while you get to live a life that you love. And number 10, where scarcity is turning up, is in the fear of being judged. Seth Godin, in his book Tribes, writes, what people are afraid of isn't failure, it's blame, it's criticism, aka it's judgment. Have you ever witnessed health professionals engaging with each other in Facebook groups? We are awesome at judgment. We are really, really good at judging each other. Seriously, this disappoints me so much, because if our prospective clients saw how we treated each other, they would not seek us out for help. They just wouldn't. So we have this incredible fear of being judged. So how this has been turning up for me with clients and prospective clients is I will ask them why they haven't started marketing a service or a new product or a new thing or a new way of doing treatment and therapy. And they say, what will my peers say? Then my question is, are you marketing to your peers? Do you actually want a business full of your clients who are actually your peers? More often than not, the answer is no. Then my response is, well, then who the heck cares? Because your peers are not your market. Yeah, they're going to judge you. They're probably going to throw words around like that's unprofessional and that's unethical. You need to know with every sense of integrity and congruence in yourself that what you are doing is not unethical and unprofessional. So you don't go to market or share how you can help in this world. So you reinforce the idea that there just aren't enough clients because you're not actually telling them that you're available. You reinforce your belief in lack, thus reinforcing the belief that health professionals can't make decent money. So you leave the profession probably with student debt to go get a job where you feel like you've sold your soul. Then you start to believe that you're not good enough. Heavy? Yes. Necessary discussion? Absolutely. So the only way we can step into a lifestyle of abundance is when what we say we want dictates how we behave. In health professional speak, stop acting in ways that are incongruent with what you say you want. How, Joe? How? Well, guess what? You get to tune into another podcast episode where I'm actually going to share with you how to get the breakthroughs in abundance that you are longing for. We're going to break off this mindset of scarcity. Now, it's probably not going to happen in 2 podcast episodes, which is awesome because I've got communities for you to join. So the first place you can come is over on Facebook, and you can enjoy us having the discussions in the Future Proofing Health Professionals Facebook group. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the Future Proofing Facebook community or over in the Entrepreneurial Clinician community. Until next episode, go be your awesome self. Hey, Joe Muirhead here again. Thank you for watching this episode of the Entrepreneurial Clinician. It has been great to share guests, new information and new ways of thinking with you. I trust that this episode today has inspired you and has helped you to reconnect to your sense of purpose as a health professional and a clinician. Before we move on, just want to remind you that these sessions, these episodes, are provided for educational purposes only. Nothing in these episodes is designed to be treatment specific or a specific recommendation about your health, your wellness, or your finances for your situation specifically. If you need assistance in any of these areas, please reach out to an appropriate professional for you to be able to access the help that you need. If you have enjoyed these episodes and would like to see more, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and make sure you leave me a comment below. And I look forward to bringing you more great, inspiring stories where I get to learn just as much as you do. Until next time, go be your awesome self.